Interior Design Podcast. I'm Hayley Roy and I'm joined by Lucinda Kernick. Is that right?
It is. Perfect.
And Charlie Kernick, who are a couple, which is new. This is the first time that's happened.
I know we might disagree throughout the podcast, sorry, in advance.
I'm going to be am I going to be a marriage
We might have a
counsellor?
full-on divorce at the end.
So today we're diving into a topic that affects every professional, creating a workspace that's both productive and comfortable. Whether you're working from home, running an office, or designing a co-working space, the right furniture can make all the difference in how you feel and perform at work. We'll be breaking down the essentials from ergonomic chairs and adjustable desks to clever storage solutions and lighting tips. And if you're listening and thinking, I don't know where to start, don't worry, we've got expert insights, practical advice, and some surprising stats on how design influences productivity. So let's get into it. So today I've come to Hunt's Office Furniture.
You have?
In High Wycombe, and Lucinda's very generously let us do the podcast from here. And sorry, Lucinda has showed us around this morning.
I did, yeah. Gave you the full tour.
I know, and it's amazing here. It's so big. You've got so many different products and they're so beautiful.
We kind of class it as the Clerkenwell outside of London. So if like a client doesn't want to necessarily go into London and go around all the showrooms, we've kind of got a flavour of all the different showrooms here, which is quite nice.
That's really cool.
So you can see a different range of products from all different suppliers, which is nice.
I think sometimes that's the best thing about, obviously, our showroom, because when you go to Farringdon, when we do showroom tours quite often with clients, you go to one and then by the end of the day you've done like 5 showrooms and you're like, oh, I don't know what that chair in like showroom 1 felt like. But obviously here you can compare and contrast as well. So we like to think that, you know, it is beneficial coming out of London, but trying to get people out of London isn't the easiest at times.
Yeah, it's really hard, isn't it? Especially for like architects and they haven't got a lot of time anyway. And they're like, you want me to come out of London just to see some furniture when I can just go down the road? So it's a bit of both, isn't it, really? At least we can facilitate people outside London and then do Clerkenwell if we need to, if people want to stay in London area, which is nice.
So is your customer base mainly architects?
Oh, it could be anyone from someone buying a desk for their home all the way to big corporate blue chip clients. So we're kind of a mixed bag, really, which is quite nice. But it just means that he has kind of facilitates both ends with your kind of your projects and your workload and stuff, which can be a bit challenging at times. But so, you have one person coming into the showroom and saying, "Oh, I want, let's say, a task chair for my home space." So you've got someone demonstrating it, and then maybe the table over, you've got someone talking about, I don't know,
project for like 300 people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's completely different contrasts, but I guess that's what makes Hunt's kind of special in a sense that we can kind of accommodate for those different aspects of a project or over a workplace as such.
Yeah, no, it's so beautiful here. I think the quality of your product as well comes through in walking around. It's amazing.
Yeah, and it's all from like the main brands, so like the likes of, Muto and things like that. Steelcase, so
Steelcase,
big UK sort of brands as well.
Awesome. So to start with, we're going to talk about why workplace design matters and the psychology behind workplace design. Do you guys have an opinion on this?
I will let Charlie answer this one because he's more design based.
Yeah, I mean, psychology in design is in the sense of like making people feel. At the moment, we have in our industry, a lot of people are working from home still since the COVID pandemic, and our challenge at the moment that we're finding with our clients is trying to create spaces that are encouraging people to come and work back into the workplace rather than staying at home. So how do you do that? How do you create an environment that if someone has the option to work from home, what's going to draw them back into the office? So, when I'm designing something, and especially with regards to kind of areas and like sort of design elements to include, you have to have that in the back of your mind to think all these things have got to come together to try and entice people back in. So if I talk about areas such as, a common thing that we're doing at the moment is trying to create larger social spaces for people to come back into the office, and because that's kind of the 2 reasons I see people coming back in, for socially as well as collaborative. So as well as kind of creating big social areas, you're creating collaborative meeting rooms and stuff like that as well, trying to entice people into the office. So that's kind of where we're standing at the moment, or where we are at the moment with kind of designing spaces.
I think a lot of it also, a lot of the companies that I'm seeing, not necessarily from a design point of view, but a lot of the companies are actually insisting that their staff do come in more. So maybe they're putting, you have to be back in 4 days a week, and actually we're accepting that you need a day from working from home. But I feel like sometimes it's not even just furniture that people are looking at to try and get people back in. It's whether it's group activities, Fridays, they're trying to especially get people in, because obviously a lot of people seem to gravitate to a Friday work from home. Definitely, like Charlie said, furniture-wise, soft seating, larger areas of collaboration tables and things like that. But a lot of it also is based around sort of furniture that allows for group activities, whether it's, I don't know, games and things like that a lot of companies are trying to do that, because it's not just sort of it's hard to also keep talent, I think, as well, if you don't offer a day from working from home. You can lose perhaps people if you don't offer, some people are insistent on even more than one day working from home. But a lot of the bigger blue chip companies I work with are, insistent it's at least 3, if not 4 days in the office, wherever that may be, whether it's London or just outside of London, we're finding.
I think it depends on the industry as well, because I'm working with an IT company at the moment, and there's a lot of people with autism who work for the company. And they are finding it almost impossible to get people back. So they've reduced the amount of desks because people are just not coming in. And we're creating more social spaces, more little meeting room pods, so the people who are working there all the time have got a nicer environment, and they're trying to encourage people to come back. But it is definitely the challenge of now, isn't it?
The problem is also I have this terrible habit of I'm listening to all the other conversations in the office, whether they're people on the phone, and I'm like, oh no, that's not quite right. You want to try this range, and and then I'm answering, and then I'm thinking I'm probably not fully concentrating on my workload. So I need to sometimes not be in the office. And also I am a distractor. I do kind of go up to people and oh, what are you doing there?
But that's the benefit of coming back to the workplace, is the social interaction. Like you say, you're saying you don't get certain bits. You don't get that kind of we're all together working from home, even though you're on Teams calls, and even though you're probably on loads of meetings together, you don't have that same feeling of that banter you get while going to get a coffee, or when you pop into the toilet and you run into someone that you haven't seen in a while, and you're just having a chinwag about what you did at the weekend. You just don't get that on the Teams call. And even if you're doing it, it's kind of a bit scripted. Oh, how are you? Yeah, I'm good, thank you. You? And it's not natural.
It's a dreaded Teams call of the I can't do this. I tried to do it, but I failed.
What's the song?
When it's ringing and you're like,
oh, the Teams Teams
ring, Teams ring, yeah.
I dread it. I don't like doing Teams.
We don't really do the calls. We just do scheduled ones.
We do a lot of Teams calls.
So how does furniture and layout impact focus and creativity? If you've got an open plan office, do you find that is good for focus or not?
I don't think it is great for focus. I think you'll find that probably if you went into open plan areas, when I visited offices like what you've just said about headphones, that's quite a lot of staff people will have headphones on, because that's the only way for them to focus within an open plan space. I think it's weird, because when I first started Hunts, everywhere was very much about 18 plus years. It was very much segregated offices. And then open plan offices were becoming all the rage. Let's knock all the walls down. Let's have all open plan spaces, desks, everything. And now you're almost finding that people are gradually saying, actually, we'd like a telephone pod, or we'd like a meeting booth, or we need a quiet room within those spaces. So it's almost like they took them all away. I guess they say in fashion it's the same, isn't it? Things come around and it comes around again. But I think people are actually wanting those spaces more than ever.
I think it's a mixture as well. And I think it was a trend at the time, like you said, everyone was just going, let's just smash all the walls down and have it all open. Wouldn't it be nice to see everyone? But then they didn't really do a proper assessment on it to think, well, what are you going to do when you have calls? I mean,
Or
I guess people
HR
didn't
calls or-
predict the COVID pandemic, and a lot more people will be doing video calls. But where are you going to go if you do want to focus? And it's like, well, I haven't got anywhere to go, so I'm going to have to put headphones on. But then you're going to need noise cancelling headphones and things like that. And they don't necessarily work all the time. So, like you said, I think it was just a trend that people just jumped on, and now they're realising, we need these spaces. And hence, you see it in our industry, the solo pod market has boomed. You know, every supplier is trying to get on that bandwagon of selling pods, and they're trying to flaunt them to you, because that's what people are asking for at the moment massively. You know, is that they want somewhere to be able to go away for a video call or phone call and then shut themselves away for a period of time.
It's the same with acoustics, because you've got open planned offices. You've got all these people talking maybe on the phone, Teams calls. A lot of people still do Teams calls at their desk with just headphones, and a lot of the headphones obviously they're terrible for picking up like background noise. But even acoustics are one of the first things, for example, that will often come off a project, because people can't say, well, God, it's that much money, and we don't really see how that's going to benefit. It's only when they move in and then they're like, oh my God, all these people are on calls. We need like either white noise, ceiling baffle. We should have thought about doing acoustics as well. But I think it's such a shame that sometimes it is one of the first things that comes off, because it is quite key really within a space. You just don't necessarily notice it until you're in that space.
I think that's what comes down to good design, though, isn't it? To answer your question about layout, I think it's massively important to have, a mixture of spaces. Yes, to have some open plan areas, but then also to break them up by, storage barriers and things like that. So there is kind of some shielding between working areas, as well as, you might then start put some solo pods as a barrier, and then obviously not only does it designate two different working areas, but then it provides some sort of noise barrier between two different areas. Even though the main workspace is open plan, you're kind of creating different areas within that open plan.
It's a bit like also when you're putting storage on the end of like runs. So say you've got an 8-person bench and you're putting storage, plants or planter tops. It's good because it's providing like a visual acoustic as well. So if people are sort of on their walkway going to the toilet all the time or whatever, you are going to look up and go, oh, who's that walking past or whatever. Our natural human reaction is to do that. So by providing things like placement of storage or planters at the ends of runs, it obviously blocks the view and as well, so that we'll become less distracted. Because they say that, what do they say? They say quite often if you get distracted, it takes around 20 minutes to then get back into the task.
Something like that. I don't know the statistic.
But
yeah, I think there's a balance, isn't there? It's like the balance between well-being and productivity, isn't it? It's about finding what works. And I think it works differently in every company. It depends on the culture of the business. I mean, my sister used to work for a legal company, and she's my sister's really creative. She's a photographer, and she was working as a marketing person in this legal company, and all of these lawyers were sitting around her, and they were all in silence. And they all had to be in silence. I think my sister actually went mad because she's creative, and she's like, and she's like, I couldn't talk all day. And she used to come home like in sweats, and and I think it's really about putting somebody creative in that environment is not a good thing, but in a creative office you'll find a lot more sort of loud things to do, and people would never ever sit in silence all day.
No, sure. And all just look like you might have like a marketing department where they've got an adjustable space where they can take it apart and move stuff around, and they've got different screens, but like you say, it's specific to them. Whereas like you say, the lawyers who are kind of focusing on certain paperwork and things and just wants complete silence. It depends on the environment, doesn't it?
I think you've hit the nail on the head, because every single company that I go to is slightly different. So you can't have a one design kind of fits all, because you want to obviously offer furniture and surroundings that complement the way they work, but you can't go in and tell someone this is how you should work, because actually that's wrong. Every company, like you said, has a slightly different culture, works in a slightly different way.
That's the role of the designer in the briefing stage. That's understand your client, understand their needs, understand what they're trying to create, or understand their processes, so that you can then create a space to facilitate that, and to support because they might not even know. They don't, you say, oh, what space do you want? They might not even know what they want. They might not even know what they need.
Quite often, I think people don't until they see it. I don't think they do.
I think there's like a balance. If you're going to change something quite dramatically, I think it's important to make it flexible so that it can be moved about a little bit. You know, for example, if I'm designing a restaurant and it's a new restaurant, I always make it a lot more flexible than if it's an older restaurant and it's an established business, because the established business knows what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And like you say, you know, my mantra is the key to being a good designer is the ability to listen and actually like read between the lines and making sure that you're listening to what's going on in that culture of the business, of the office. So yeah, I think that's quite important to make sure that we get that right.
Yeah, and then like you said, then you can then facilitate the design around that. You know, irrelevant of what settings you try to introduce, they will be based off the information you get from your initial briefing and understanding your relationship with the client.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we're working on this office that I said about earlier, and we're actually presenting two options, and one of them is a lot louder than the
a
other.
wild card option.
Yeah, and you know, and I'll be working with somebody from the business and who is presenting this to the board, and she's like, no, we need to go that or that, you know. And one of them is very, very flexible, so it could be anything, and the other one is fixed booths with acoustic fabric around. So it's really I think it is, the key is if you're worried about it, make it flexible. And make it so you can move it about. Like if you do a booth seat, you can always have them freestanding, can't you, with detachable tops and things like that, so you can take them off. And
and even sometimes you can have, I mean, there's some products that come out there that you have, you know, pop-out casters and things. I mean, I know a lot of our solo pods and even some of the larger ones, they have the ability for sort of facilities managers to pop casters out and move them around. So let's say you did plan a space and, you know, you thought, oh, this area is going to be the quiet zone, this area is going to be where we're going to have like focused working, but you find that for some reason the culture of the space, a lot of people are utilising this area more because of the sunlight coming through, or I don't know, it's a warmer part of the space magically, then you think, well, actually I need to move this area now because people are complaining it's too noisy. So having more freestanding elements or having the ability to have casters, you can just say, oh, okay, we'll just swap these two areas around of the space. Or you know, even I guess in an instance where you need to expand certain areas and this then area it goes into the quiet zone and you need to adjust that, it's kind of having those little abilities, like say casters and stuff like that, to help adjust the space.
So statistics, a well-designed office can increase productivity by 20% and reduce stress-related absenteeism. Can I say it? Absenteeism.
I think it's sometimes subjective. I think it would be quite interesting to go into an office where a company is already based, maybe their old office, and then assess. But I think they'd even find it hard to assess on how to document that kind of data. And then obviously once they moved into a new space, I mean, I've just done one recently, working with a design company, and they went from an office that they won't mind me saying that was very old and dated. They had lovely brown top desks that were very old. And they moved to an office where they had sweetie stations, cool sort of media units. So it was really brought into kind of the 21st century. Everyone loved it because obviously they hadn't seen it or didn't really know. They knew they were moving, obviously. But I think the mindset changes, definitely. It was all, you know, the finishes, it was fresh, it was light. Where their old office was all brown and quite dark, there was hardly any windows. So I definitely think it's a mindset change, but I think it's incredibly hard, if I'm honest, because it is quite subjective.
How do you quantify it?
How do you provide data for it, really?
Have you ever had anyone who's gone to a different layout and update and then regretted it? I don't think I have.
I don't think so. I think because obviously you're in the design process and you're working out the problems that the client is facing and you're trying to create solutions for that. Sometimes maybe they think, oh, we've overstretched in these certain areas and we've probably invested too much into certain areas, but I don't think they would regret it. I think it'll take a bit of time for those spaces to be fully useful to the client, if you see what I mean. But I don't think anyone's regretted it.
Have you got any real life examples of companies that nailed their office design?
I mean, having a sweetie station, I'm not being funny, I think is pretty nailing the office design. No desks involved.
Well, we were saying this morning, I think we talked about the Jellycat project, didn't we? We were saying about not only was it a project that looked amazing from an aesthetic point of view, you know, because they have such quirky branding, and the designer, who we know quite well, really understood their branding and just went quite crazy with the design. But even the space itself, like the types of settings,
Interior company did a great job as well.
Yeah, just the finishes and stuff like that were great. But aside, the aesthetic aside, like the actual usability of the space, you know, they downsized. It wasn't necessarily the biggest office, but what they were getting from that interior space with regards to, you know, providing a lot of meeting spaces for the staff to actually come in and utilise the space for those situations, rather than it just being come in, work, and then you have, you know, some smaller areas that you can break away from. But
I think that was helped because obviously they're a toy company, so I think they had in-house designers that helped kind of bring that realisation to life.
Yeah,
with
and
the designer and obviously the interior guys as well.
It's quite a playful design. They really
Yeah.
focusing on the branding, colours, and utilising toy design within the actual aesthetic, and that was quite quirky. It was just, you know, I can imagine if you walked into that space, it'd be super awesome to work in there.
Even the furniture was useful. Like they had banquette seating, but they so the designer in the interiors company specifically said we would like storage within it for all the toys. So we made something bespoke for those those meeting rooms, the smaller meeting rooms, and the end result was brilliant. And I think also a good one to mention was, which I completed last year along with Virtus and Interior Interactive Space, was IGI, an insurance company, and the designer Paul, who we worked with as well. Just the end result was really lovely. We did some special bespoke tables from Italy. It was a lot of back and forth, but they ended up fabulous.
I guess that's that's the other end of the spectrum. Where Jellycat was very, like, you know, it's a lot smaller design, trying to get the most out of like one simple space, whereas IGI was, you know, a much larger floor, very traditional kind of, you know, you've got the services in the middle with all the lifts, and then you've kind of got the perimeter sort of office workplace. I've got the site, what the location was again.
So Sky Garden, the building that the Sky Garden's in. So it was a lovely, they had amazing views all round of London.
And what was quite quirky is that they showed different ways of how to, even though it's kind of one continuous space, how to break up different sections of it, as well as having foldable walls. So if people want to open it up, you know, make the breakout space a lot bigger, they could do. They utilised a lot of curtains, which was quite quirky.
Curtains is definitely a love-hate. I have clients that hate curtains.
That's my favourite.
Designers seem to eat curtains up for breakfast. They love a curtain.
It's because you do so much with it. It provides texture onto a wall. You can create spaces with it. You can close off spaces.
But it is a Marmite. It is a Marmite product. I feel like clients will either say, "Yeah, we love it," or it looks like a hospital ward.
You've got some in your showroom here.
Yeah.
It looks really good.
See what I mean? They eat them for breakfast.
I love them. I'll try to use them on every design.
Yeah, I think they do work in some places. I'm afraid I'm not a lover of curtains. I'm probably a granny in.
No, I'm not going to say
granny
that.
A granny in the office furniture world.
Why should we be worried about chairs as an investment and not an expense?
I think from my point of view for chairs, it's so important because if you're uncomfortable, you become distracted easily, and then you're not going to be productive. Going around offices, I think also, and probably a lot of companies are guilty of this, of not sending videos. I mean, a lot of our manufacturers now are brilliant. They will do videos on how you adjust your chair once you get your new chair, which I think is really useful because a lot of people will just sit on a chair or come to a new job or whatever and just sit down and not really, maybe because obviously they're in an open plan office with loads of other people, but they won't really want to play around too much with the adjustment of a chair. But I think it's a really important, one of the big things I find is people never adjust, if they have this option of adjustability on their chair, seat depth. And seat depth makes a big difference. Obviously, well, I say that for a shorter person like myself, probably doesn't, because you wouldn't adjust it out. But if you're a tall person with like a longer leg, seat depth is, a game changer. It can often make a chair a lot more comfortable. But very few people seem to adjust it, because they just come into a new job and think,
just sit on their chair.
Yeah, get on with it. So, again, so many different companies will do a lot of research. We all sit in different ways. I'm terrible. I will put my foot up, probably a little bit like what I'm doing now. And let's face it, not everyone will sit close to the desk, straight upright. That's not who we are. We're all slightly different. But a lot of the manufacturers now design chairs with that in mind, that we don't all sit in the same way. So they have features that will make sitting comfortably and being more productive, therefore not less distracted at work. So it could be, for example, seat depth, fully adjustable arms. Obviously nowadays we're doing a lot of leaning back, we're texting. We probably don't realise it when we're doing it subconsciously, but a lot of the arms will have a pivot feature, the arm pads, so that when you do lean back, the arm pads work with your texting as well. Again, a lot of the chairs, the sides, quite often maybe we would sit more sideways on a chair sometimes if we're turning around to talk to, if someone's next to us. So I do think chairs are very important. It's difficult though, because obviously with the height adjustable desk sort of coming through, the sit stand, which a lot of companies do seem to be more investing in. I would say it's taken a while. A lot of the Scandi countries were doing it way back, the electric height adjustable desking. But in the UK, it was very much, you'd have your fixed desk. We don't need height adjustable desks. Some companies will put them on the ends of banks so that you have maybe a bank of 6 and then 2 on the end. So it gives people flexibility, especially if they're coming in and sharing space. So you can obviously have the option of booking a height adjustable desk. But I think chairs are just so important because we're all different shapes, sizes, heights. But it's very hard to pick sort of one that would tick all the boxes for every single human being. Well, I think you just need to have the adjustable features.
That's what people ask, aren't they? On the phone,
Yeah.
They say, what would you do? What
And
would you
quite
choose?
often what you would pick.
You can say, well, I can't give you my recommendation. I can say these are the leaders on the market with regards to adjustability and ergonomics, but I can't recommend something because, like I say, I'm a different body type to you. I might find a certain task chair more comfortable because it's got a high back, but if you're shorter, you might prefer a slightly different chair because you feel it's overcrowding your neck or something like that. So I think definitely testing the chair. If you go to somewhere like this or another showroom or furniture dealer and stuff like that, helps because you can really, like Lou said, I mean, it sounds really boring talking about chair settings and stuff, but it does.
It's important, though, isn't it?
Really, it does make a massive difference. Like with regards even like lumbar, just having something simple that slides up and goes into sort of your curvature of your back. Again, people have different heights and different positions that they sit, so really having that adjustment as well is massively beneficial. But I guess just testing the chair. It's like running trainers. That's how I'm kind of saying it. People invest in running trainers because they're going to be, using them all the time and they want it to be supportive. It's the same with a task chair.
Yeah, how many hours do we sit in a task chair in the office? It's so
exactly.
important.
Yeah.
I always cross my legs on a chair, on an office chair. But I've also got another chair. I was just racking my brains trying to remember the name of the chair, but it's one with like a foot pad.
Okay.
I'll put it in the show notes.
It's not like a kneeling one, is it?
Yeah, so you sit on it really upright. Like if I'm having like problems with my back or anything, I'll dig it out. But it's not as cozy as my office chair. My office chair's got a higher back, but this has got like a little pad that goes right into your back, makes you sit upright, and then you can put the base bit. You can put your knees on it, you can put your feet on it, it goes up quite high, so you can adjust your desk a bit higher and have it a bit higher. It's not like a stool, but it's a bit higher than a normal office chair setting. And I love it because I'm such a fidget. I don't know if I told before, but I've got ADHD, so I'm like a massive fidget, and it just helps me focus. I focus much better. If I've got a period of focus and I'm like, right, I need to do this, I'll dig it out and swap my cozy office chair for it and go, right.
I think that's coming as part of the inclusive design as well, because obviously that's coming more of an important factor in our industry. When suppliers are designing chairs now, like Luce mentioned it, they're looking at that people don't sit in one position and that's it all day. They are kind of leaning back, fidgeting, rolling around, either kind of
their leg up
and things like that. And then so having for example, some steel case chairs, they have flexible back. Is sort of the plastics they use in the back is very flexible. So if some people are turning, it kind of supports you still, even though you're not in a standard seating position, if you see what I mean.
That's really cool.
So I guess we'll see more chairs coming out like that.
It's very hard to kind of sometimes tick all those boxes because they're not always aligned. And obviously you'll have new staff members join, you'll have people leave. So I think it makes really a designer's job quite tricky to have all those areas. And like you said, the more, inclusive design for everyone. But often that's done through texture, furniture type.
Yeah, and then obviously you look at it going add to that. I guess it's just design, like even sort of colour as well. Colour's a big one.
Yeah,
colour's a big one. Where some people find certain colours triggering. Again, I think it's dependent on the person. Some people might say working in a white sterile environment's really off-putting, and I don't like that. I need like calming pastel tones. Whereas someone like myself, I quite like working in a minimalistic space, white everything, very clean, and that's how I kind of work, because I like it tidy. So I guess it depends on the people. But if you've got a company full of, let's say you've got 60 people in an office, how are you going to facilitate everyone's different style and so that they don't get triggered and things? But
even here we have it. We have people that will say that will have to concentrate and can't, like if you're having a conversation within an office space because it's an open planned office, and then they can't concentrate, can they? They'll be like, look, I can't concentrate. I need to.
Well, it's even music. I mean,
it's music.
So we have it here where we
fight.
We have the showroom, and obviously
fight.
we want to have atmosphere in the showroom, and we want to have, so you're not walking around sections of it where it's empty, and because it adds to the experience. But trying to work, if you're an employee, you're trying to work in a space like that. It's really distracting, and even though you kind of raise it, it's that balance between, well, we're going to put the staff first or the customer experience first, because that's what's making the money. And so yeah, it's a hard one really. But then again, we're lucky to have these spaces, there's the pods and the solo working areas to go to break away from that, but not everyone does.
The music is a big factor. Sound is a big factor because, for example, Charlie and the designers, well, probably just Charlie, will put often like lift music on, and we're all downstairs trying to work, and it's so
She's like, it's not lift music. It's not lift music.
Like,
it's
boring.
Ambient electronic music, and it's
focus music.
Focus music. It's quite nice, and
but like when you're trying to do quotes or when you're making calls, you're like and it'll be like
they say, we want lyrics.
Yeah, we do.
It's like, that's the distracted element. This is what I mean. So you have this fighting. It's easier just to go for something simple, and then if people want to go off, they can, or put their headphones in, they can. But so even though we're meant to be,
helping. We have it in our workplace.
Then you can get away with it.
No, you won't, because everyone's different.
Yeah,
I think that's about kind of if you're running an office and you're designing an office or for someone, it's about getting to know all the people who are there and making sure that you've consulted them as they come in. If you've got new staff, if you've got any needs.
Yeah, definitely.
But then it's hard because they want to be seen as a particular identity, a brand, and they would want to ask a target group, shall we say, a target group of people within the office space, just to get feedback.
Yeah, like team leaders or something like that.
With something we said.
Because she said lift music, that started me off. That's it. It's not lift music.
First argument.
So we've talked about chairs. What about tables and desks? So like sit-stand desks. What's the pros and cons of each? Standing desks versus traditional desks.
I think obviously more things can go wrong with standing desks sometimes because obviously there's more, there's movement to it, etc. So I think when people are picking something like that or want to invest money into that, I think they definitely need to, without a shadow of a doubt, if it was me picking it, you need to be looking at what guarantees are offered because they will vary massively. It could be 2 years, it could be 15 maximum for projects. So I think especially if you're buying high quantities, you definitely need to be looking at the guarantees, and testing them is, paramount, because some of them can make interesting noises going up and down. Some will be louder motors, some will be quieter. And again, we're talking going back to the distraction. If you've got a louder motor and you've got 300 in one, in a space, and they're all they're quite a loud motor, it can be really distracting. So I think it's paramount to go and test them, go to showrooms.
It's a bit more of an investment as well, isn't it? Because I know, some of our staff can be, even myself, can be a bit guilty of it, is that even though you have an height adjustable, you don't really use it. I don't really use it. It's when they said, we're going to give you height adjustable desk. Like, okay, great. And then, weeks go by, you think, actually, I've got this option, quick, I need to use it. So it's whether you're actually going to utilise the ability to be able to stand.
It uses calories, apparently, standing throughout the day.
It does.
Yeah. I mean, even if you, to be honest, if I had a static bench, I'd probably prefer that more. And then having maybe a high table in my local area that I could go to if I wanted to stand, because then it gives you that. But height adjustable desk for me is a bit. I'll be happy with it, or I'll be happy without it. To be honest with you,
we have one at home,
and we don't use it. It never goes up.
I would slightly disagree with that. I would say that I have it slightly set higher than a normal desk seated height, but I rarely stand.
That's
if I'm honest.
That's a good point, to be fair. So even though you're not going to use it for standing, if you are taller or smaller, you can adjust the stat. Because I think 740 is the standard height, isn't it?
Yeah,
for
very
most,
roughly
for most
740, yeah.
So that you can adjust it slightly if you did want it slightly lower, which is, I guess, is always a benefit of having a.
And that's what some clients have done recently. They had some taller staff members, and they sit, I think, at 82 or 83 high, which doesn't sound very high, but actually it's a lot higher than the standard norm. So for it definitely, it's a mixed bag.
Scarlett at work sits with hers up like this, I sit there and I think, oh my god, my chin is going to touch your desk. How do you work like this? But she loves it. It's really funny. Yeah. That's the sort of advantage of it, isn't it? Even though it's not a sit stand option, it is a height option.
Yeah, and again, it comes back to what we're discussing, providing people the options to adjust things. Like we said, adjust your seat, adjust your desk.
I've got a balance board.
0 calories. Do you?
Oh, that's cool.
So I'll stand on the balance board and stand up. I haven't done that for ages, though. It helps me focus more.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's because I've got ADHD. I'm not normal. I don't think many people...
I think it would make me feel sick looking at the screen.
We've got a wobble board. We've got a wobble board at home, haven't we?
For Oak, though, for a toddler.
But you could, it's the same sort of thing.
Ours is it's a child's one.
Oh,
me and Scarlett both got them.
It's like a piece of wood. We've got that.
Yeah, we should try that. That's a good idea. Because like you say, I'm always... I'm always kind of like leaning, or I'm always kind of slanting, and then I'm doing, I don't know, because then your legs are kind of focusing on kind of keeping yourself balanced.
I'm going to be honest, knowing you, it wouldn't work on you.
Yeah, okay. Well.
But give it a go.
I love all stuff like that. Give me something to bounce on, and I'll focus.
It's a bit like leaning back in a meeting. When people used to lean back on their chairs and like swing.
Yeah, bounce.
Yeah.
Or side to side. I find that I do that all the time. If I go into a meeting and there's a chair that twists. But I remember having an MD once, and he was like, right, we're in a meeting room. I don't want any chairs that swivel because it's really distracting. It makes me feel sick when every staff member of 20 is going in different directions around. But for me, I quite like that, the swivel. But he was insistent. He was like, no, I don't want anything on the swivel.
I've got these chairs at home. Are they called cantilever when they do that?
Yeah.
And they like bounce a little bit. Yeah. And me and my son both sit there like that. And my husband's like...
I would probably do that.
Would you like to talk about acoustics?
Yeah, I mean, we were just saying about, obviously, talking about the setup of the podcast, but obviously acoustics is massive in the sense of, a bit like we talked about before, being in an open plan office, distractions, making sure that you don't have sound bouncing around or too much sound. So trying to introduce acoustic elements into a workspace is important. How you do that is loads of ways, through products, through to stuff that you put on the wall, through to kind of sound masking. I think sound masking is probably a big one that most people don't think about when they think about acoustics. They think of, big baffles or, the wall coverings or tiles that you can put on the wall, but sound masking is quite a big one. If you have, I guess it's a bit like our workspace where we have this big air conditioning unit and it constantly runs all the time, and you don't really pick up on it when you walk into the space, and you can hear people chattering in the distance, but you can't quite, work out what they're saying. But as soon as you turn that air conditioning system off, it's like they're next to you. It's like if you have a 60-person office and everyone's working open plan, yes, you can put some tiles on the wall to stop the sound from bouncing, off these hard surfaces and back into, different areas. But having a constant system that's kind of producing a white noise that you don't necessarily pick up on can help soften the sound between different people.
I've never heard of that before.
Yeah, it's
love
quite
that.
So we have a chat. We have a friend who works in acoustics, and he says that, let's say you had a meeting room, you should obviously look at the structure of the space, and if the space is structurally sound, and since it doesn't have any gaps or anything like that for the sound to bounce out, you should try and fill the space with as many soft elements as possible. Try and, let's say you have a massive wall surface like we have behind us, look at putting some sort of softer materials on there to try and absorb the sound or acoustic, as well as masking as well. So it's kind of the combination of all of those elements kind of help reduce the sound reverberation as much as possible.
Even in our showroom, we've got the acoustic sort of artwork that you did with those guys, Acoustics by Design as well.
Yeah. So we basically created an art piece and digitally printed it onto a piece of fabric, and then essentially the fabric is at the forefront, and then you have a cavity behind that with a sort of
with a frame wrap. You kind of
and it has like an acoustic material inside. So when the sound hits the artwork surface, it's kind of stopped, and it kind of bounces around within the cavity behind it, and then helps reduce the sound. I mean, I'm probably bodging it.
You need Charlie from Acoustics by Design.
Yeah, I'm probably bodging it.
Another
But that's
Charlie.
essentially how it kind of works. So yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it's also about visual acoustics as well. People forget, that acoustics can be both visual as well. So, like what we were saying about the end of run planters, it could be they do sort of the hanging from the ceiling with the panels or the slats. It's about also that as well, because I think it's your eyes and your ears as well. So to think about with acoustics, it's not necessarily just your ears.
You can utilise it for like pathfinding, and when I started in this industry, it was very much I would just stick a few tiles on the wall. Now it's how, when I'm designing a space, you can use the acoustic products to help you, with layout and wayfinding. Like Lou said, like having like slats. When you come into a lobby, you probably have a big line of slats to kind of differentiate the entrance to maybe the back area and to hide certain elements of a space as well.
This is the route you should take.
Follow
the yellow brick road.
Oh my God, I love it when you can actually control what happens in a space just by changing the floor and the ceiling. Like you can actually create that. Follow the yellow brick road, isn't it? Yeah. But it does. It's like a demarcation line, isn't it? And doing it, reflecting the ceiling, not necessarily exactly the same colour or anything, but like another material in the ceiling that reflects that is really powerful.
Yeah.
And it's quite a good way. I mean, like you said about carpets and things like that, it's quite a good way because often you want to lighten areas up or spaces, and you do want to get away from the greys or the dark greys because it's more practical because people spill things. So obviously doing like those pathways, you can then get away with doing perhaps lighter carpet elsewhere and adding different textures in. It's far more like visually interesting rather than
definitely
shades of grey.
Yeah, that's so gone. We said in one of our podcasts at the HRC show, we said grey can fuck off.
I would agree with that. I'm sick of.
I'm totally on board with that.
I am sick of. I mean, because I've again worked here so long, I would say fabrics also. You get some fabrics and every man and their dog goes for them. Mainly because sometimes they're in group one from a pricing structure, but you just think, oh no, they can fuck off.
We are the UK though, so grey is our favourite colour.
Oh,
or
really?
shade, yeah. That's the UK.
Where have you got this statistic from? Statistic?
It's from the lady, Leslie, I think it was from Chimera. She said about grey.
Did
UK
she?
being grey, yeah.
Not forever though. It's changing.
I'm hoping.
I'm going to make it change. I hate it.
Refuse to use it.
I've got my brand is grey. I'm rebranding at the moment. Yeah, I'm like, great, get rid of it.
Yeah.
I think it's just a safe colour, isn't it?
Well, shade.
Shade.
Yeah.
Why a shade? Why is it not a colour?
Because you can have like warmer greys, and you can have like more greys with like tinges of blue and tinges of green.
Charlie, it's still a colour.
Oh.
So moving on to lighting.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for lighting? So what's ideal, natural light or artificial light, for example?
I mean, obviously, you want to try and design a space and encourage people to be more towards natural light. Not only is it beneficial for their well-being, but also from a
Probably eyesight.
sustainability point of view and cost effective. Because, you know, if you've designed a space for everyone to be by the natural light, you might not necessarily need artificial light on in the day, and you can save a bit of money there. And I think the main bit is just for the people's well-being, just being close to natural light to get the vitamin D, rather than being in a space like this where you've got no windows at the moment in this room. And if I was to work in here all day and every day, it might, I don't know, depending on the person, they might go a bit crazy. And I guess you want that eyesight as well to see outside sometimes. So I guess it's a bit of both really. But I mean, artificial light it comes into play when you're, as a designer, so especially like a space like this where you're trying to create an atmosphere or trying to make certain elements a bit more dramatic. So we've got ambient lighting running down the sides to kind of create the effect. I mean, normally that's white. Normally it's not blue, but it has that effect of like this, sunlight creeping into the space. So you can kind of create effects like that. So I guess there's a place for both. But yeah, natural light is where you want to try and encourage. Is what you want to try and encourage the most in an interior space.
I'm designing an office at the moment for a hair transplant clinic, and it's in the basement, and it's a treat. It's a consultation room stroke office for the guy who does the hair transplants. And we've put, what we've done is we've said, right, there's going to be 3 fake windows. We're going to buy a window frame and then light it from behind. And then we're going to put a voil right across, because there's a bulkhead that comes down right next to the edge of the wall. And then we're going to put this foil over the top. So you will, and it will be timed so that when it goes dark outside, it will go dark in there as well.
That's a good idea.
So that he feels like he's not in a basement,
Yeah.
basically. So that's what we're trying to put together at the moment.
Senator showroom, don't they? In by the T point area, not T point, but behind the T point in that meeting space, they have those 3 circular lights that almost look like windows.
Yeah, roof lights. They imitate roof lights, didn't they? I think it's just important, just like you say, it's just that biophilia is such a big thing, and people's well-being such a big thing. It's just trying to encourage as much natural elements into an interior space as possible. And
it's hard though, because when you're doing offices, I know that they obviously come with maintenance options and so on, but people always go, oh, real plants.
They don't want to maintain them.
No, they don't. They're worried they're going to be like, oh, they're going to die in like a month. But obviously, I know the maintenance, but not everyone wants to do that. I
guess then that's another thing. If you're designing for natural light, your plants are going to survive more, rather than if you had an artificial light environment like this. I mean, our plants are constantly dying, aren't they? I mean, even that one behind us is got on its last legs, to be fair. But
yeah, but that's also because of the light and things like that. But I think plant companies now obviously guide you according to what light you've got, and then would say, actually, that's not really going to be realistically surviving there. You need to look for a different plant type. But I'm not Charlie Dimmock, so I'm not going to say any more on plants.
I think that if you want to have natural plants, I think you need, and you've got a big office, I think you need a maintenance contract.
Oh, 100%.
Because I think otherwise it's just not.
I think you do, even if it's a smaller office, I think you do, just for the peace of mind. And if you are going to then have the outlay of real plants, you definitely need, I mean, depending on how many you have, often it depends on the maintenance contract as well. But I think,
but in terms
it has its benefits.
In terms of cost, though, fake plants are more expensive to buy
Way
initially.
more expensive. I'm not joking. The guys at IGI, I know they put some options. They had some options, not necessarily from us, but from Interactive, and they said that they were crazy amounts for.
It's like four times
fake plants. But then you know that they're never going to die, and you've not got a maintenance contract.
Yeah, so it probably costs about the same. So lighting. What about desk lamps?
It's not necessarily something we get involved in.
I get rarely, very, 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 very rarely in all my 18 years have I been asked for desk lamps.
It's funny though, because a lot of the suppliers are are bringing them out. So, still has got that eclipse and things like
Well,
that.
the
and
ones that you can move around.
Yes, they are. It must be there must be a requirement for it, a need for it, because obviously if the suppliers are picking up in that research and things, I mean.
But then sometimes it's because in certain areas, like in Europe, for example, a chair might be a bestseller in, I don't know, Germany, but actually here it might not do as well. Maybe they're doing it for the generalised, and also for, like the more public sector, hotels, restaurants, things like that.
Yeah,
the lighting that they're bringing out that are rechargeable options. But we rarely get asked for task lights. In all of my 18 years, I could probably count on one hand the amount of times I've been asked for a task light.
The one I think will be popular is that Eclipse, because it has the phone charging built in. I think that's a reason why you'd probably look to propose it, because you can say, well, rather than having a dock, you've got a task light that can help, make certain areas like a bit more brighter. It's got a mirror built in, which is always right for the user, and then it has the charger, so it's kind of a multi-purpose thing. But
forgive me for piping in though, but also from a sales point of view, people will then look at end figures, costings. They'll see how much they cost, and quite often will be like, no, we're not going for those. They can start without them. We're supplying the correct lighting plan according to assessments and everything like that. Why would we then be? It's really a luxury, and it's far more cost effective to have like a clamp on or a circular grommet that drops in with phone charging and a power option or a twin USB A and C than it is for something like that. It's a no-brainer. People would always go for that, because that is the main thing. They don't want people under the desks plugging in their phone chargers or anything like that. So quite often that is something, I would say, a luxury item that people do tend to go for or opt for.
Maybe it's sort of like a home office, definitely. So you like to
that's maybe
customise
different.
this,
Or architects, I can imagine, definitely with task lighting.
I've just put one on my desk yesterday, because we've moved from a studio which has got loads of natural light into a much bigger space inside a warehouse. So we've got an office inside a warehouse that was built by somebody else, so I did not specify the lighting, and it's driving me nuts. So it was painted grey, and it was the one place in the whole building that didn't need to be painted. So everything else has been done first, and I ended up painting it at the weekend because I was just so fed up with like the oppressiveness of the office.
So what did you paint it?
So I painted it white.
Okay.
So I thought, right, this is a good base. So paint it white. All the furniture's white, but the lighting, I think it's the lighting as well. And I pulled one of the lights out yesterday. Out of the ceiling, like it's like an LED spotlight, and I've flicked a switch and made it warm rather than cold, which I don't know is the right thing to do, because you think the cold light might be better because it's daylight, so it might wake you up a bit more. But I've bought a couple of uplighters to put in the corner of the office, and I've bought a desk light. It was like 40 quid on Amazon. It's like a white desk light, clamps on, a bit like the microphone holders, clamps onto your desk, and it opens out, and you can adjust the colour, warmth and
temperature on that.
Colour temperature on it. And I'm like trying it, because I'm like, so I feel when I've been in there all day, because there's no daylight, I'm kind of really craving that. And I'm trying to sort of fix the lighting in there, and I will change all the lights if I can't make it nicer. I will just change all the lights and I spend a bit more money on the lighting, because I think when I work with a company called IBL Lighting, and I work with a guy called Charlie, who is really, really cool. He's a lighting designer and a sales guy, and he just helps me on every project. And every project that I've done with this lighting is just simple like spots and track lighting. It's just beautiful. It just feels amazing in that space. And I think there's a lot of cheap lighting coming out of China, and I think there's a lot to be said about actually getting quality light.
No, definitely, and I guess even with regards to getting like you say a specialist, like you say, working with a specialist, you understand. As far as I go, is the aesthetic, and there's enough a light balance in the room. But with actually looking at the different temperatures and how they act with different surfaces, to have a proper specialist come in and do that, that's why that you have like lighting
designers. It's a bit like acoustics. A lot more to it to assess. For within like the size of the room, like the ceilings, the type of lighting, downlighters, feature lighting, bars. It's a bit, again, I feel like it is very much like acoustics, where you do need
A specialist.
obviously a specialist lighting plan, sort of like feature lights with a mix of kind of not the ugly, I don't want to say the ugly lights, but the lights that also are going to provide the right light for your workers or employees.
Yeah, and then give the adjustment settings and stuff as well. I mean, even here, these lighting that was specified by our MD and a salesperson. So there was no kind of look at, oh, actually, to be honest, in my opinion, it's too bright. There's too many fixtures and it's too bright, and we didn't really necessarily have a specialist come in and go, actually, what are you trying to get out of this space? Well, we want it to be a presentation area, and we want to dim certain elements of it and have certain areas darker because it won't affect the screen. But we didn't have that kind of assessment, which is kind of probably should have done, to be fair. And basically they've gone ahead and done what probably a lot of people do, is just chuck a load of lights in and go, oh, it'll do. And a lot of people come in here and go, oh, sometimes when they've looked at the screen for too long, if we're having a town hall meeting, they start to get headaches and they start to think, I need to step out for a little bit, or
Yeah. It's about getting that really right, isn't it? And making sure that you can always employ a specialist, can't you? It's just, some people don't value it as much as others.
No, I mean, if they're employing a designer to come and design their space, they should do the same if they're really concerned about, like I said, lighting. And I mean, even we're saying about plants earlier, get a specialist in who can tell you about different species of plants and how they're going to survive in different areas.
Plonking plants in, there's a lot more to it, saying, well, actually it's going to be under this LED, so that plant isn't going to light, especially if you're going down obviously the real. There's a lot more to it than just plonking plants in like corners or areas.
And it's the same with lighting. You can't just plonk a light in and it just does, that looks good. It's all, it's more than just appearance.
Absolutely. So the next topic that I've got on my list is designing for teamwork and collaboration. How office layouts affect teamwork, open plan versus private offices.
I think we touched on that, of understanding an organisation, understanding the teams that they have and the requirements that those different teams have. What settings do they need? What tools do they need to be able to be productive? And then building that environment around them, really. And again, like we said, it's dependent on the business, depending on what they do as a team. In our design area, we have quite a large space because we need the material library. We need services to be able to map out mood boards and different schemes. And then we have our fixed desk because we have such quite a lot of content, whereas downstairs in the sales area, you're kind of more hot desk based, so much smaller desks, more settings that are inclined to around the sort of a sales team, so maybe one-to-one settings, a large digital screen that you can go around and have your sales catch-ups on a Monday. So again, it's just looking at the team itself and then building the environment around that.
I love a high table as well. I'm trying to put them in wherever possible, and sometimes not necessarily designed to involve, but like with meeting spaces and things like that, because it's so boring having all meeting rooms all the same. Your typical sort of dining height desk, your typical dining height chair. Just recently there was a company that was very much used to that, and I was like, please, it's myself and the designer from Interactive were kind of saying, please just have one room, like a standing height, office stalls, if you can then have people standing, sitting still, in a meeting that's maybe going to be a couple of hours, but I guarantee that people will flock to it. And I just feel like it is a lot more of a collaborative height rather than sat round a dining height. And I've actually just been back last week to the client, Mosaic, and Delia tells me that they are like flocking to it. They're using it. And it's more interesting. I'm so, I don't know.
Well, even this,
I'm not even a designer, but I'm so bored of like your dining height. Like have a meeting room with like a corner sofa and maybe an occasional height table. Have another meeting room with a standing height. So you're offering again all these different options. And I think you'll probably find that actually people in these spaces might come out with better ideas or collaborate better as a team because they're feeling more relaxed. It's not, oh yeah, hang on, let me get my notebook and da-da-da-da. Everyone's on multimedia with its laptops, notebooks, da-da-da.
Yeah.
And I just feel like it enhances creativity. Whereas when you've got sort of tables your dining height table and people are sat across the way, it's going back to that kind of old way of being in like a sort of a smaller board meeting.
And it's corporate. Imagine all the employees are on one side, the big boss sits down the end of the table, and he's dictating everything, and it's hierarchical. Whereas something like this, we're in a relaxed posture. It's equal. There's no one.
Information sharing as well, because quite often those meetings are like maybe sharing information or trying to come up with ideas and so on. And I think it just enhances that more so. And I get more excited when people are doing meeting rooms that are all different rather than your boring table and chairs.
Or if I've got a big digital presentation, having something like with a big screen, and then it's like a sofa at the front, and then
high tables
at the back, and it's just fun. It just makes it a bit more fun and different that people actually want to use.
How do breakout spaces play a role in being creative in an office?
I guess in what we just discussed, it's just make it more, having areas where you can go away from sort of your workstation and say, like, this is where I solo work, and I'm going to an area where it's been designed and been designated and given an identity that this is where I'm going to collaborate. I guess it's a mind shift that you're going to be able to, you're going to do that with a team there, and it's better.
But I think it's also movable, what you were saying earlier, like flexible furniture. So actually it's kind of a bit like the campfire idea, where you're going to bring up like maybe a couple of booths. You're going to have a sofa that's maybe fixed, but then maybe you'll have like a high table that's movable on wheels with stools and so on. So I definitely think, like what you were saying earlier about the whole flexible idea, makes sort of soft seating or breakout furniture a lot more collaborative when it can be moved, because then people are joining or coming in, or even if it's like passing and actually they come for a chat, if they've got something they can move in, like a booth or something like that, they can move in, have a chat, and it becomes automatically, without thinking too much or thinking.
It's not forced.
Yeah, it's not forced. It's just sort of a natural flow. So I think definitely movable furniture is always advisable, even if it's just a couple of products, or we tend to do that anyway in like an L shape, where you've got like maybe a coffee table, or again, if you want to make it a bit more practical, you'd have an occasional height table, which is about 66, if you want people to come with laptops. It depends what you're trying to create.
What about colour psychology? What shades inspire productivity versus relaxation?
For me, orange is out, but I realise I am wearing orange. I hate orange, but I am wearing colour.
Yeah, colour psychology has always been a bit different. Like I understand there's research about it, and they've probably done studies of, people are more attracted
Red,
to this,
danger.
and this means this. But for me, or what people associate certain colours with. But I guess I personally believe it's really dependent on people, and what their personal preferences are. I think, I personally hate red. Whereas a lot of, someone might love red and they might work in a red environment that's actually beneficial to me. Whereas me, like I said before, white's my kind of safety. That's what I class as safety. Some people might think actually, no, that's sterile, soulless. I don't want to be there. So colours are weird. I mean, don't get me wrong. You have stronger tones. If you had like vibrant, stronger tones everywhere, it's quite. You walk into a space, you're like, wow, that's your initial reaction. Whereas if you had softer pastels, you might come into another environment and have an instant reaction that's a little bit more calming. But then I think once you're in that environment for a little bit longer, you start to really look at the space and go, actually, I quite like the design, or I like these colours, and actually I quite like this area over here because it's got, I don't know, mint green or something. So then you're more attracted to that space. But
I think even clients, or not even necessarily clients, but company logos, they all started quite kind of punchy, like your reds, your quite dominant primary colours, and as they go on, or people want to do rebrands, I think they change their colours to a lot softer colours. They go away from sometimes the primary colours, even in their secondary like marketing colours.
Well, McDonald's went green, didn't they? Like the dark green that they added,
like a mustard dark green, and the brown, to go with it. And you find a lot of brands, even though they might have a strong punchy red and they haven't rebranded,
they have like secondary ones that
and
are
you say to them,
a lot softer.
You say, I'm going to design the interior, I'm not going to use your red because it's blood red is too much, and if I had this everywhere, not only would it look nice, people might find it, again, I guess that, people might find it a bit triggering initially. So you say, oh, can I use softer tones like pastel pinks? Because not only does it nod to the red, but it's kind of, you've got your brand identity a little bit, but you start to use like terracottas and more pinks, because it's more in trend, I guess, aesthetically, but also it's softer on the eye. So maybe I take my point back. There are certain elements, probably certain tones where you wouldn't necessarily use them a lot because they are quite triggering when you enter into a space.
But I think it's hard because because you're a designer, I would say that, I'm speaking for you. But you, for example, say a company had like a primary red, you wouldn't want to go your typical like whites, blacks, primary red within your design. I think you try to go away from all of those, like you'd have maybe the primary colour in the reception, but then like as you go through the office, you wouldn't pick, because it just looks too corporate tones. And it'll be like you'd be picking like 3 colours, and I think it tends to look very corporate if you go down that route, whereas I think if you go for like softer colours or secondary palettes, a million times usually better.
I definitely got the current
or textures with fabrics, maybe have a fleck of the colour, but it's just a very, very, very gentle nod.
Yeah, if you're like maybe like trims on a chair, or if you have like a certain details on joinery, you might have it in like a strong colour. But most of the time, especially walking around our space, that you find the designers they are leaning towards the pastel tones at the moment, and sort of earthy tones at the moment.
Mocha mousse,
mocha and latte colours and things like that. Yeah, rather than kind of your standard primary blues.
But they've got Dulux's True Joy, which is like a bright yellow. It's a mustard yellow, really. It's their colour of the year.
Oh, really?
Okay.
That's quite interesting. I thought it was going to be green.
I'm seeing green everywhere. I've just I went to a company. We were actually installing the furniture this week, and they had a lovely green wall.
Like a sage green.
Yeah, it was like what is it? It wasn't overtly olive. What?
That's our one at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah.
Overtly olive.
Yeah, so nice. So at least we took a gamble with it, didn't we? We didn't even get a sample. And I went,
we're not talking about work now, we're talking about...
we're having this.
We're not allowed to talk about this, right?
Yeah, you are.
But it works for us, doesn't it? It's a really nice colour.
It is a nice green.
It's like a deep green, really deep green.
Green and like salmony pink seem to be the colours that I'm seeing at the moment, like across showrooms or furniture showrooms or spaces.
I think years ago, the Google showroom did, because of the psychology of blue, and blue is supposed to be productive colour, they did a whole lot of their meeting rooms in this like vibrant blue with like a whole lot of LEDs in blue, and basically nobody went in there and they redecorated it really quickly. But because it was too oppressive, it was too much. So quite often, if you want people to be productive, the way to use the colour blue in a productive way is to use a paler, softer colour, and then it doesn't become oppressive. Or you use it as a highlight. I don't know, on the edge of something,
an accessory.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, or mixing it up enough with other tones that it's not the strong. Like, I mean, if you literally walked into a whole room and even the ceiling was blue, you're just like, wow.
It was horrible. Much. Yeah, I remember seeing it when I did a presentation and had a picture in it. This was like 15 years ago, and it was awful. Yeah. But
initially, you probably looked at it and thought, "Oh, this is quite quirky," and then you've gone, "Right, that now, there's too much."
It didn't work. Yeah. And it was a good example of how you can take it too far. But with things like red, it's culturally different as well. I mean, we're really multicultural where we live, so we've got to consider a lot of different people. But if you lived in China, the colour red is prosperous. Everywhere is red. You go to a lot of businesses and they've got red everything, and it's because it means prosperous and a good business and it's healthy and things like that. Yeah. Whereas in this country, red is more of an angry, vibrant, sexy colour. So it's more of a like, it gets you riled up. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Ferrari or
Ferrari red.
Yeah, either sort of. Yeah, Ferrari red it's like a sexy colour, and it's more angry and aggressive as well. So it really depends on the culture, and again, it goes back to listening to your client, seeing what the culture of the business is, isn't it? It's all of that. We had a lady called Karen Haller and she did the first ever episode of the Interior Design Podcast. I don't know if you've heard it. It's really, really good. And she's written a book called The Little Book of Colour, and it's got a lot of different insights in there about different cultures and what colours are important in different cultures in different ways. It's really interesting reading. It's great for designers, that book. It's brilliant, sort of to steer you. If you need some inspiration for something and you need a colour and you don't really know what to do, it's great to kind of just reference it and read a bit.
In China, they probably have 22 shades of red, I would imagine.
Yeah, 50 shades.
They should change it.
50 shades of red.
It's something I should look into a lot more, because you get caught up so much on like trying to incorporate a client's brand and trying to make it personal to their space, but then you also get caught up in trying to make the space aesthetically pleasing. You don't want it to, but it's always the last thing you think of. It's like, how is my color palette is going to affect the well-being? You don't really. That's always the last thing you think, which really should be the first, and then you worry about.
It's because you're so worried about getting all the colours in for the client's brand identity.
Yeah,
and not necessarily
creating the look and feel that from an aesthetic point of view. That's kind of at the forefront, was really it should be. Like you say, incorporating the well-being element of it as well.
Well, I know the answer to this already. Would you ever work in an all-white office, Charlie?
100%.
Do you like an all-white office?
Probably not for me. I don't think. I like everything. I am quite OCD, so I like things very tidy and clean and modern. But yeah, no, I don't think. I think I would struggle.
I would only work if it was matte white. I couldn't have gloss white.
Gloss is bad.
Yeah, that would make me feel like I wouldn't like gloss white. But if it was matte white, a few maybe stone materials, that'd be quite nice. So like maybe a stone floor, white walls, and then maybe a few stone elements.
But wouldn't you not find it rather uninspiring?
But the point is I see it as like a sleeper car. So you know what a sleeper car is, where you have bog standard on the outside, but on the inside of the car is like like a V8 engine, and it's crazy. So it's an amazing super fast car, but it's not showing itself. I quite like that with having for my spaces. It's like my creativity is all on other people's stuff rather than on my environment. So I'm like living and working in a very plain Jane. I don't have to worry about my space. I worry about other people's space, and I design other people's space. That'd be my kind of. I know it's not like that at home, because I have to realise I'm living with you and Oki with all our personal stuff. But if I had the perfect style, that's how it would be.
I put my foot down to all white areas.
Yeah,
I like natural areas, but I just don't. I find it. I think sometimes when it's a blank canvas, for me, I find it very near. So my mood would probably be.
It's quite productive, isn't it? It's quite cold white. There's a bit of blue going on in there, isn't there? Like the productivity. So for me, I love white at work. We've got a lot of white desks. We've got white walls, but I've got decoration on the walls. So we've got flowers and things like that. But it's the base of it is white. Everything is white. So I can change up what's on the walls really easily. I can change up everything around the white base.
I have to say that I did go again to an office last week, and I even made a comment on the walls. I never make comments on the walls. I was like, lovely walls. And they said it was Egyptian cotton. And I have to say, I'm a fan of Egyptian cotton. It's kind of a weird it is a very natural looking finish, but it's not white. But I was quite impressed by that colour.
Like a very light warm.
Yeah, I thought it was a really nice finish. It wasn't white, and it wasn't like it was just white.
Do you have any advice for budget-friendly ways to improve your workspace?
I would say definitely have a look. When you create an environment or you create a new workspace or you're moving, definitely look at the second-hand market. I mean, it's not necessarily a big thing for us, but if I was a consumer and I was creating a new space, or I was a business owner, the second-hand market at the moment is, it's crazy. There's some of the pieces you can get for quite a reasonable cost. A famous branded chair, it's got a famous designer. Knew it might be let's say 500 quid for just a basic dining chair. People are just trying to get rid of them. People just want to get rid of this. You might be able to pick it up for about 50 to 100 quid. I mean, I went to a site once and they had all these Knoll chairs just piled up in the corner. We were walking past. And we said, well, what are you doing with those? No, we're just chucking those out there. They've been around since I think it was like the 80s or something like that. And he's like, you do realise they're like original Knoll chairs. And they were like, what do you mean? And they just, because they didn't know the brand, didn't understand it. I said, you can resell that for, quite a considerable amount. So, yeah, that's my big recommendation, is to definitely have a look at the second-hand market, because you can get some really good deals for people trying to get rid of stuff.
I think for me, it would be to invest in a good chair personally, and it always will be, because I think, you know, doing that prevents distraction. I appreciate they're quite personal as well, chairs, but I think they're a really good way. And it's not always about the money. It's not always about, oh yeah, let's get the one that's the higher cost. It's going to be the best. It's actually what's right for you. So quite often, you know, people will come in, trial all the chairs, for example, we have, and actually, you know, not necessarily always go, not know prices as well at this stage. So they're, you know, ignorant to the costs of what chairs are, but definitely without a shadow of a doubt for me, a good investment is a chair,
I
no matter
don't.
whether it's sit stand desk or not, you know, because a lot of the time, you know, the majority of the time, no matter what, even if you've got a sit stand desk, you will be sitting.
I don't necessarily focus on brands as well. You know, you get the sort of bigger corporate brands that everyone kind of flocks to because they've heard that it's, you know, they're the best. But sometimes the smaller brands offer just as good as products and are like half the cost as well. That's a good way to be a bit more, you know, more efficient.
And it's more sustainable if you go secondhand.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah,
100%.
And if you
yeah.
choose a chair that's going to last a long time.
Yeah.
It's both
Because
of
then
those ways.
equally, like you said, that it often with chairs, you know, if they, again, like I was saying earlier, if they have, you know, they vary. If you buy something online and it's sort of a cheap, cheerful, there's nothing wrong with that, but you're probably going to realistically have a guaranteed maximum of a year. And quite often we have people that have bought those, they haven't lasted, and that's why they've then come in to invest in a chair. So maybe you need to not do that in the first place. Come and try the chairs. Don't just buy something that you haven't tried online without, you know, seeing or trialing it first, because, you know, we are all different. So I think it's a big factor.
Upcycling old furniture. There's quite a lot of people doing that now, isn't there? There's a guy on my LinkedIn. He's upcycling all the old office furniture, and you know, reupholstering and just reconditioning everything, and you know, putting new tops on a desk, on a desk base, respraying things and stuff like that. It's just brilliant watching people do that.
I mean, that is good, and don't get me wrong. And I'm not saying that I'm anti-sustainability. It's a bit simplistic saying it, but equally, as a company, when companies buy things, they quite often want additions, and when you have that kind of thing, you won't always get the same thing, and often you won't get guarantees. So I'm all for that, or reupholstery, you know, with sofas if you change your finishes. But I think it's important to know, you know, to make perhaps the right choices in the first place for longevity, and then be able to use the same manufacturer if you can where possible, because quite often, like, it'll be metal to metal fixings within tabletops. They will last a hell of a lot longer, even if you're moving offices, say 2-3 times, you know, compared to not going into metal to metal fixing. So that's one big thing I would say. Always see if the manufacturer will offer replacement tops. You know, so I guess that's a quick fix as well. What you were saying about earlier. If a client is not happy and they've got all brown, you know, awful brown desking, go back to the manufacturer. Can you actually? We've got these desks. We absolutely, you know, they're perfectly fine. They're stable. They're great. We just want a refresh of the tops. And that's something that they can quite often do.
Yeah. I think you've got to be careful with, obviously, I mean, buying second hand is great, but I think sometimes you've got to be careful with, you know, let's say getting a sofa reupholstered things, because sometimes you find that the cost of getting an item reupholstered is actually probably a bit
100%.
more than actually buying brand new. So
Definitely.
you know, unless it's like a specific piece that you think, and it's part of your story as a brand, you know, oh, we've 50% of our workspace is refurbished. You know, that's great. It's a great story to have. But you just got to be prepared that sometimes it might be a bit more of a cost.
It's 100%. I can tell you now, because I obviously do more of the pricing. It's 100%. At the moment, at this stage in time, it's always, which it's wrong really, because obviously they want to guide us into being more sustainable. It is always more to take a client's existing sofa or open booth unit, to take it away, take it back to the workshop, reupholster it in a fabric, and then deliver it back. Always more.
Do you know
I mean,
why?
hopefully that will change, but
It's
who
probably
knows?
just because of the cost, because you have to go and pick the item up, then you
Yeah.
have to kind of deliver it to the
Quite
so,
often it will be need more foam, new foam, everything like that.
and
But also, when you're doing an individual piece as an upholsterer, you are having to start again with your templates. So if you're an upholsterer and you're templating 100 benches or whatever it is you're doing, 100 chairs, you're moving really fast because you're doing that again and again and again. When you're reupholstering something, you've got to figure out, you've got,
The
cut it
stretch of
apart.
the fabric, everything like that, how it's going to, if it's going to pucker.
Yeah, and you got to buy. I guess you're buying a fresh piece of fabric where there's the big suppliers will have all in stock, and they've kind of built that into the cost of the item and things like
But
that.
I have to say, a lot of the manufacturers now that we deal with, I think, or will certainly in not too distant future, will even take back furniture and then reupholster it or offer it as as an option down the road. I know, for example, I think I'm not wrong in saying this orange box.
I was going to say, I saw some orange
They
box.
do,
They're brilliant.
yeah, like the rework kind of package. I know, obviously. Senator Alamere, they have the sustain side, which even with packaging, they do the dot system, don't they? Reusing all the polystyrene. So they're then reusing it. We have to put it into sustain bags. The packaging doesn't have to necessarily be their own packaging, and then they work out what they can reuse, how they can recycle, and sort of note it all down as well.
Yeah.
I think if you're working with really reputable companies like you guys have got, like Orange Box and things like that, those companies are already kind of starting to,
Yeah, 100%.
right, how can we make this product sustainable? Like, in 10 years' time. I heard someone talking about Orange Box, and they were saying that the furniture is all put together with bolts. There's no glue, so that you can take it apart, refurbish it, put it back together, and it's a new product. So, and if people are doing that with the company it's come from, then you don't have the cost implications that we just talked about, or have you? Like, if someone figuring out how to reupholster something,
Yeah, I
because
mean,
it's the same product as they did 10 years ago,
Yeah.
and they're still doing it. Or,
yeah, sure. I mean, you'd have the transport cost, but that's about it,
Yeah.
really. So,
But even that, I mean, sustainability is like such a big word, but I think everyone is on a journey. We're all on a journey. Nothing can be fully sustainable at this point in time, because you have to think about how they source products, how they source mechanisms. Are they coming from elsewhere? Vans, they're not all electric. Lorries, 7.5 tons that get delivery of furniture. So we're all on a route to making, obviously, things more sustainable. But I think it is very much a journey for everyone, from all manufacturers. I mean, do things come by rail? From, if we're looking at European manufacturers, do they come by lorry, van, etc.? Not all of them will use the rail systems or whatever, which probably are a little bit more eco-friendly than obviously driving a truck over or a container.
a lot of suppliers are, like say, introducing programs and stuff like sustain, and then, like you say, designing products with no, with bolts, or like Modus, for example, have a lot of their upholstery zip up. It's all zips, so you're not
that's
using
cool.
glues within the fabrics as well. So if you did want to
Change.
change the fabric, you could just literally take the seat pad off, and then you just unzip it, and you
Fab.
get another one kind of made up. That's down to the suppliers to kind of be a bit more conscious to integrate that into their design processes of their products and stuff, which I think they are doing.
They are,
so-
yeah, definitely. I think, like I said, everyone's on a journey. They're just on that journey, that we're not at the end of the road.
Yeah, I think there's more to come. There's a lot
I
more
think
to
there
do.
will always be, yeah, with vehicles and stuff like that as well.
Right. So, last thought. What is the one piece of furniture that you cannot live without? Work or play? Home or office?
Dual monitor arm.
Oh God, that would be my.
I know that's really boring, but as a
That is the
designer,
most boring thing
Oh, I
ever.
need to get one of these then.
yeah, so as a dual, or even having a trio when you have like the three
Oh,
ones,
yeah.
because that's not.
That's
only
just being greedy.
it looks cool, but not only, but if I can have my CAD, like Photoshop and things like that. It's from a program point of view, for me, that's one thing I can't live without. I need to have all my screens. I cannot stand having elements hidden and you have to open them up, and then having 3 screens or 2 screens to really help my workflow as a designer. That's the one I can't live without. Specifically if there's one with a docking station at the bottom as well, so that you can charge bits and have extra things plugged in.
Oh, you need a docking station.
Yeah, you have a docking station. Charge things and be a bit more nerdy.
I think mine would be a chair. That's boring as well.
Boring.
All right.
What kind of chair? Which is your
Oh
favourite
my
chair?
God. Am I allowed to do a plug?
Yeah. What is your favourite
For
chair?
me, is without shadow of a doubt the steel case gesture chair, which I know is now considered a gaming chair, and I don't game. But for me, it's just so comfy. I love how I like being tucked in. The arms work a little bit like a monitor arm, so
The
I'm
4D arms, aren't they?
yeah, 4D arms with an active back. So without a shadow of a doubt, for me, it would be my gesture chair at home, which I could not live without because I don't use my height adjustable desk, so I can't really have that.
You don't use it at all.
No,
There's one time when you
I have
used
it
it,
fitted
it scraped the
like
paint off the wall because it was like butted up right against the wall, and we had like, I think we had like some sort of bracket on it, and I could notice some of the paint was missing. I thought, oh Christ, she's actually used the height adjustable desk once, and then other than that, that's about it. You probably used it once.
I think that's very rude.
I've got a chair in my conservatory, which is like a reading chair, and I like sit in it and like just chill and drink tea and sit in the conservatory. It's like my happy place.
Is it a proper like lounger?
It's like one of the old. It's like an Eames chair with a little footstool.
Oh, like an ottoman.
Nice.
Is it an Eames?
It's not an Eames.
right.
It looks like one.
They are
Nice.
lovely. I like
Before
I do
they
like them.
before they started banning the copies, I think it might have been.
Yeah. Oh, just to sit and have a cup of tea and contemplate.
I mean, if
life.
we're going
Oh,
down
I
that route,
love
I think
that.
mine would definitely be a hammock in the garden, in the sun, not the rain, which would be
You wouldn't be
rare.
able to get in it.
Huh?
You wouldn't be able to get in it.
I would. I just wouldn't be able to get out of it.
Yeah,
What, in the rain?
Well, yeah, but even in the sun, I don't think.
Have you got a hammock?
No.
No. Oh, you should come to mine. We've got a hammock. in
Have
the garden.
you?
It's
Have you
so good.
actually? We need a hammock.
yeah.
Big hammock post, and then it's
Oh, have you got
tied
one
to
that's freestanding? Yeah, see, you can get ones that are freestanding.
Yeah. No, ours has got a big. We've got a big post which has gone into the ground with cement at the bottom,
And then
it's attached to the fence.
Cool.
Oh, a tree actually. Tree on the other
the
side.
AC haven't got any trees, unfortunately.
Could get it for your 40th this year, couldn't
Oh,
you?
thank you.
He's just told everyone you're going to
I
be
know.
40 this year.
Thank you.
So, and for our listeners, if you're feeling inspired to upgrade your workspace, start with the essentials: a comfy chair, a smart desk, and proper lighting. So, thank you very much, Lucinda and Charlie, for your time today and for letting us do the podcast in your showroom,
Thank you.
which is amazing. Everyone needs to come to Hunt's Office Furniture, to the showroom, because it's beautiful and massive.
It is big. Yeah.
If you're after commercial furniture and you want
Don't go to Charlie.
So it's Lucinda you need to speak to. Come and see the showroom.
Yeah.
Um,
Charlie will bore you.
So thanks for listening. Follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn for more design tips. And subscribe to the Interior Design podcast so you don't miss an episode. We've got lots going on YouTube at the moment. Tag us in your workspace transformations. We'd love to see them. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.